Welcome to the Land Your Bet Sports Betting Show. Getting a late start here on Friday slate, but I got 6 best bets in here for you guys. Going to be looking at 2 games, obviously. Pacers and Knicks. Also got those Nuggets and the Timberwolves headed to Minnesota. So we'll take a look at both of those. Pretty good day on Thursday. Still up at like less than 1 unit, I'll be honest. So could have been better. Had a few really good bets on the live stream. We're going to be going live again today, 5:30 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you do subscribe to that page. Come back and check it out. You bring your bets. Bring them in the comments. I go ahead and look at them with you guys, and we find a little bit more value before these games tip off tonight. So let's get right into Friday's bets, though. Who else but Ant Edwards, playoff Ant activated. He's gone over this number that we're taking for him, 33.5 PA, minus 111 on FanDuel with a full unit there. 9 of his last 10 in the playoffs here. A lot of those versus Denver, as you know. And really, the only time he went under versus Denver was in that first game that he played against them in game 1 last series, and then over in all of these moving forward. So he's looking at 38.2 points and assists combined in 39.6 minutes, basically playing 40 minutes a game here in the postseason in his career at this point, with a really good number that gets us about 4 or 5 over this points and assist prop right now, which, like I said, we still get for minus 111. So I like the way that there's really nobody that can stop Ant at this point on Denver. I'm not even sure if KCP, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, was fully healthy, that he would be a great matchup anymore for the playoff Ant that we have seen so far. He's looking at about 23 field goal attempts, and in one of these games against the Suns, he only took about 14 in a blowout. So this could be up as high as about 24, 25 in this game. That's what it's been pretty much on average without that other game that he, like I said, had a very few shots. That would be the outlier for his field goal attempts, plus the 10.5 potential assists, which, like, that's why I like adding the assists here for Ant, is because there is the possibility that they throw at least 2 dudes at him moving forward to try to slow him down, in which case, one, we've actually seen him drive by multiple dudes. He's broken through a number of double teams so far to actually get all the way to the rim. And then there's also the fact that he's now going to have all his players ready to go with an imbalanced defense because they're just all focused on him. So I still like adding the assist because of that, but if he wants to get to the bucket, man, there's really nobody to stop him. There's really no rim protection anymore for this Denver Nuggets team. I mean, Jokic is it, and it's really not going to be his series if he's busy dealing with Rudy and or Cat. Whomever they have him lined up on has not been a good matchup for Joker either on defense, as he's getting pretty tired on that end of the floor. So I think the way that Ant continues to go is going to be over 33.5 points and assists, and we're going to rock with that in game 3. Conversely, Jamal Murray not having a great series, as we know. Obviously, the heating pad drama is a part of it, but more importantly, it's just a brutal series because of Jaden McDaniels and a little bit of Nickeil Alexander-Walker, but Jaden McDaniels especially. Like, so far in these 2 games, we've got him at 15.5 points and assists in 35 minutes for Jamal, and he's gone under in 4 of the last 5 versus this team with both Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Jaden McDaniels playing, averaging 21.5 PA, comfortably under in that one. And if you look at JMD, Jaden McDaniels, in this series specifically, 0 points that Jamal Murray has scored when that man is guarding him. It's been about 7-8 minutes of offense for this Nuggets team. That's a good amount. That's him guarding him about 60% of the time that he's on the floor. They've also brought in NAW without any fear of him guarding him, Jamal, as well. He gave up 4 points in about 4 minutes to Jamal. Still really good numbers. A couple of assists. The assists are a little bit more likely to come with Jaden McDaniels guarding him, but we've seen them throw both of these dudes at him, not to mention Ant Edwards as well, who has taken that on as a sort of one-on-one matchup that he wants to dominate and prove that he's clearly head and shoulders above Jamal Murray at this point. Murray's still a little bit hurt with that calf, as we know, also was nursing knees and ankles in the last series versus the Lakers. So it's clear that he's still not that healthy. He's not even getting the shots off is the big thing here. He did still take a ton of field goals against the Lakers, and that helped him get over a bunch of times. He was still hitting those floaters and hitting a lot of mid-range stuff against the Lake Show. But that's not here for him. So he's going to need to hit a lot of threes to get to this, in my opinion, because if you look at the way that this Minnesota team is guarding him inside the paint, but not in the restricted area, like even staying all the way out from floater range, right? Let's say like 6 to 10 feet essentially for Jamal in that painted area, still not there for him. The potential assists are super low as well, only 7 potential assists per game because there's no doubling going down. Like usually the pick and roll for Murray and Jokic is what helps them make the defense imbalanced. Just hasn't been the case in this series, or really when they play with Jaden McDaniels, because you've got Jaden McDaniels one-on-one with Murray, or NAW, and there's no help coming. So there's really no shooters playing off of him that are going to be open to spot up at this point because their man left to go help on Jamal or whomever. It's just all one-on-one D that once you get into the lane, you're swarmed, and then you're done. but mostly by the bigs. The dudes on the wing can still stay out and guard the shooters. KCP not even shooting that well. There's not enough guys out there to get assists off of Murray unless he's playing really solidly with Jokic. And the way Jokic has scored in this series and really against Rudy when he plays him, post up isolation. There's really not as much pick and roll man for him when he's scoring for Joker. So even those assists to Jokic that might have been there in the past, not around right now for Murray. So we're just going to go back to under 27.5 PA for Murray tonight. How about an under, though, for the T-Wolves? We're going to take under for Slow-Mo Anderson, Kyle Anderson, under 8.5 PRA tonight for him. Look, he played great in game 2. Awesome minutes. I think he had 23 PRA in that game. So we get a little bit of an inflated line now. But Gobert is back, and that's going to be a pretty big impact and change from game 2, right? This man is probably worth 4.5 points, I would say, in terms of wins above replacement for who would come in for him. That is going to be how much better he is than a guy like Slow-Mo coming in, to be honest. So that the minutes are just going to drop. That's really what it is. Even in game 1, when we saw him play, I believe it was about 12 minutes in that game, like, he's not a good matchup for the second unit. They had to have him guarding Aaron Gordon, which, not a bad matchup in terms, or I'm sorry, they had him guarding Michael Porter Jr. in that matchup there. And that is what I would say is not a good matchup for him. Not quick enough to at least even get into Michael Porter Jr.'s grill when he's shooting. Had a pretty good game there in game 1, did MPJ. Not as good in game 2 when he had a different matchup because Slow-Mo was guarding other dudes at that point, playing more of the backup 5 or even starting 4, if you could, really starting 5, to be honest. Even though he wasn't the direct matchup on Jokic in game 2, he really was in there as the starting 5 who played enough minutes to act as like, a rotational big. He's not going to be a rotational big anymore. They have other guys to do it. They've got Naz Reid at this point, plus Gobert and Towns. Plus, they'd rather just play small with Jaden McDaniels at like the 4 at this point is also what they've shown in this series. And I think that'll continue to be the case. They're fine with Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Jaden McDaniels on the floor with one other big, either Rudy or Naz or Cat, right? Or even 2 of them. Honestly, they're good with it all. But those 2 dudes give them so much versatility that you don't really need Kyle Anderson because you have the bigs to guard Jokic and company, and you don't really need Kyle Anderson to even step in and try to do that, which he can't, by the way. So I don't think that's what they want him to do. But either way, this puts his ceiling at about 15 minutes, honestly, in the minutes category there. And I would say that that's what we should project. Under in 5 of 6 this year when he plays that many minutes. If he plays a ceiling of 15 minutes, if you even put that up to 16 or 17, still going under in 4 of 6. So this is not a number that he hits very often. If you do have Bet365, which not that many people have, but if you have an account there, you can get under 9.5, drink that minus 140 juice and sort of take worse odds, but still a really good look for him to go under at 9.5 for worse money, but close to even money for him to go under 8.5. He's averaging about 6.7 in these games where he plays 15 minutes at the most. So I think this is going to be a good time to go ahead and fade him. And I think this would even probably be down at 7.5 PRA by the next game. Speaking of Rudy being back, also going to be bad for his opponent, much less his backup. Aaron Gordon, 10.5 rebounds and assists, and we're going to take that under minus 122. If you want to add the points in there, I'm not too against it, honestly. But if you just look at his sort of hit rate here with just the rebounds and assists, this is something he goes under. You might think that he's more likely to get assists against Rudy because he's got to pass out. But this is what it is. It's Rudy guarding Aaron Gordon now, and that worked to perfection in game 1 when he was out there. You keep Cat on Jokic. Sure, he gets some fouls. You got Naz Reid coming in behind him. You're not as worried about that. You'd rather have Cat just make sure Jokic doesn't get easy buckets. But Rudy guarding Aaron Gordon continues to be a problem. I mean, he only got off 2 shots in that game, and he's not shooting from 3. Like, Aaron Gordon has not been a good 3-point shooter in the playoffs, especially, and I don't think you want to bank on him continuing to make those threes. It's at half a 3 now for him, despite the fact that one might argue he's going to be pushed out to the 3-point line to try to draw Rudy away from the basket, so Jokic has more room to work. But either way, however you're running this, there's just nothing on the baseline for Aaron Gordon. And that's where his stuff goes the best, right? It's when he's catching those assists off of Jokic and not playing in one-on-one sort of style, right? Like, he's not an ISO player, especially if he's guarded by one of these 2 dudes who's just as strong as him between Cat and Rudy. And without Rudy, he went off in game 2, right? And he even still didn't get the rebounds, to be honest. He's only at 6.5 rebound chances, 5.5 potential assists in the 2 games this series. So, I mean, he looked to pass a little bit less in game 2. There is the likelihood that he gets a few more assists in game 1 than in game 2, because in game 2, he was able to score the basketball while that thing was still close enough for the Nuggets to actually be trying, right? Like, game 2 is a little bit of an outlier in general, not something you want to glean too much from, but it's still enough to go, yeah, there's a huge difference between the way Aaron Gordon plays with Rudy and without him. And in this series in general with this team, those rebound chances and potential assists should remain pretty low. This is not a team that is going to be able to come down into the lane and find somebody, and shooters have not been open for them because of the fact that this Timberwolves backcourt is not leaving their dudes. They're just sticking to them and making sure that they don't get easy shots. Guys like when Christian Brown comes in, obviously KCP, even Jamal Murray, who's just got Jaden McDaniels inside of his jersey at this point. So the assists are not going to be there for Aaron Gordon. Maybe he gets a couple. I have this projected at about 7.5 RA, maybe 8.5 if he gets a couple extra rebounds than he got in game one, which was a really bad rebounding game for him. But I still don't see him getting to the bucket. And like I said, if Rudy is guarding him, which he will be at least half the time, he's pulling out to the 3-point line on offense, which makes those offensive rebounds a lot less likely for him. So under 10.5 rebounds and assists for Ago tonight. Over to that Knicks and Pacers game in Indiana for game 3. With the dudes who are going to be playing for the Knicks now, you can't go under very often. Like you got to. I mean, maybe there's some interesting stuff with like Jalen Brunson under, whatever. But Hartenstein, Josh Hart, even Dante DiVincenzo, like these dudes are just going to play too many minutes now. We have no OG anymore. Obviously, Mitch Robb is still out. Precious Achiuwa props as soon as they come up. I wasn't able to grab those yet, but probably going to go back to him playing as one of the only dudes coming off the bench. He and Miles McBride, like I think we're down to 7 men. I mean, maybe you get look, no Jericho Sims. Just please no, and I don't think it's going to happen. Plus, then you've got Alec Burks as the other dude that could come off the bench. Turnover machine. Really hope he doesn't play too much either as a Knicks fan. So either way, that brings us to probably 39, 40 minutes for Isaiah Hartenstein once again. And Precious Achiuwa and him actually played on the floor at the same time because of how good this man has been as a facilitator. In game 2, he played 39. Now we've got no OG. So the usage rate should probably go up because OG had a 36% usage rate in game 2 there. And then obviously got hurt and now is unavailable for game 3. So with that 36% usage gone, yeah, there's going to be more shots going to other shooters, but Isaiah Hartenstein is also going to be even more involved in the offense if possible. He's actually leading the Knicks in touches in the first 2 games of this series. Now, Jalen Brunson would probably have a few more and they'd probably be a little bit closer, but he's still got 4 more touches per game in the first 2 than Jalen does. And that's because Jalen's first pass when he gets double teamed is usually to Isaiah Hartenstein. And that double team, if it comes from the Pacers, is coming on the pick and roll. And that's when Isaiah Hartenstein is now point forward. Like he's Draymond Green on the Warriors, where it's like now we've got 4-on-3 because 2 guys are still at the top of the key guarding Brunson. They both swarm to him. And now we've got Isaiah Hartenstein with the option to go and hit that little push shot, which has been freaking butter, or he's got that passing ability. Look, I mean, the potential assists, he had 13 potential assists last game. That's without Brunson playing like that second quarter, but still came back, played most of the game, and still 19 potential assists for Hartenstein, 32 rebound chances, including 21 in this last game. And no more Mitch Robb does mean probably going to keep seeing those stay at around 20 to 21 rebound chances for Hartenstein. If you like just the boards at 10.5, I'm fine with it. I like all of it because he's liable to get another 5 to 6 assists the way that he's been playing. And the field goal attempts are the only thing that you're like, well, that's a little bit low. He had 4 free throw attempts in the last game and 8 field goals, which was good enough to get him to 14 points. So you still consider that how consistent he's been hitting his shots at about a 70% clip so far in the playoffs. You got to feel good that it's 6 for 8 essentially, right, from the field, gets you about 12 points right there, and that's still over the 11.5 that he needs. All of this stuff together, like he's going to do at least 2 of these things really, really well. I'd rather not have to figure out which 2 they are. Hopefully the points stay in there, but the points are 11.5, the rebounds at 10.5, right, and the assists at about 4 or 5.5, depending on where you get it. So this number at -110 to go over for a dude that's just going to be so heavily involved and playing so many minutes at this point. Got to keep liking the way the Hartenstein's performed, and we're going to take him over 26.5 points, rebounds, and assists combined tonight. Last play here. If you have DraftKings, apologies to those who don't, but I love this plus money for Tyrese Haliburton to get more threes than Jalen Brunson. So if you go to DraftKings and you go into the game of the Pacers and Knicks, you can find the head-to-head stuff, right? That's going to be its own category. You go right there and you can find Haliburton versus Brunson, as well as a few other options for guys to go head-to-head in their 3-point or points or rebounds or assists. Those are all available for who's going to get more in this game. This line is set for Haliburton to have to get 1 more 3 made than Jalen Brunson. And at plus 114, I got to take that. You look at the attempts, that's where you start here, is like who's going to have the likelihood to take more shots to give them more chances to get over this number, to win this battle, essentially. 8.2 in 5 games versus the Knicks this season for the 3-point attempts for Hallie. For Brunson, 5.8 in those 5 games. And he's had 2 games now where he's hit more than 1 for Brunson. He's had 5. He had 4 made in the first time they played in the regular season, then 1, 1, 1, 1, and 3 in this last game. He had 3 in this last game after coming back from a little bit of an injury. That would be the only thing that you worry about, is that Brunson pulls up more from 3 because he's not as able to get all the way to the bucket with his injured foot. That said, like, this team is going to be really aware of that and like, look, we're going to make you work. You're not going to get open shots from probably anywhere, but Brunson doesn't need to be open to make a mid-range when he gets to his spots and pivots his way to an open shot. It's really about, is he going to be able to take the three? And I think they're going to keep forcing the ball out of his hands, or at least forcing him off the 3-point line and pushing him inward so that he can't beat them from there, where he probably would prefer to take a few more threes with his inability to get to the bucket as easily. But the free throws are still going to be there for Brunson more than Haliburton, averaging 10 a game against this team. And I think we'll actually 11. And we'll continue to see that number for him at about 10 to 11 free throw attempts for Brunson, because he knows he's too slithery once he gets in there. For Haliburton, he's got at least 2 made threes in all 5 versus the Knicks, and had 3 and 4 as well. So I think if he gets 3, he's good to go. I don't have Brunson getting more than 2 in this game. I don't have him taking more than 5. I think that's his projected number here for me. I know it is for him to take 5. I have Hallie taking at least 7. So with 2 more attempts, and actually basically a better 3-point shooter, right? He really is. I mean, if you look at the numbers, he's going to be a little bit better because he's got more volume and making more. So still going to like him to take this one. 1 more 3, that is plus 114 on DraftKings. That is all the time that I have for you guys in this one. Quick reminder about the Discord. It's live. Link in the description of the video. A lot of good stuff in there that we're putting out. A lot of discussion, some live betting, getting ahead of these lines really, really early in there. So if you want some good discussion and some good insights, that's where you can go, as well as grabbing those picks for me on top of all that. So make sure you jump in there. If you do want to get a little bit of props.cash in your life, I would suggest that as well. It's my favorite tool. Mostly what I'm using here is I bring you guys a lot of different stuff and different looks, insights, and all that. Picking up a lot of this on props.cash. So code LYB24 if you do want to check it out, and you can go ahead and get 25% off your first month. Get it for the last month of this NBA postseason. See if you like it for next season. They also got MLB and NFL stuff we'll be using as we move forward through the summer and into the fall. So really good tool there if you want to get that. I've got that live stream at 5:30 p.m. as I mentioned, so make sure to jump back in there and subscribe to that page. Like the video if you would. Support the channel. Until I see you next, happy betting.